All right, I had a very late night last night. EVO came out pretty late, right before a hockey game. My hockey game started at 10:30 p.m. So yeah, I'm dead. So if I look like a disaster, there's a good reason for it. But let's talk the EVO notes. Out of the blue, complete surprise. Obviously a very cool surprise to see a structural salvage update. It's something I've been begging for a long time. And this, despite their words in the notes, is a placeholder for something more to come in the future. So let's just read through it. There's a lot here. Structural salvage has undergone major changes to prep for future systems. Okay, so it's not a placeholder, it's prep. I get it, but yeah. The commodities appear to be placeholder. This will affect all salvage mechanics for all ships and will increase complexity, adjust salvaging times and materials collected, and add refining as part of the flow for materials. I will say right off the bat, the Reclaimer does not necessarily appear to be affected by this. At least some of the changes. This EVO, when the entire notes were this, and EVO was late, as in they attempted to have it out last Friday, didn't happen, then Monday, then Tuesday, then Wednesday, and then it finally came out on Thursday. Most of the things in these notes are not in the game as they are laid out in these notes. So keep that in mind right now. This is why they do EVO, because if you saw this patch, you would definitely talk shit. You would say they did nothing. You would say a lot of stuff like that. So I will read you the notes and tell you my experience. More interested in talking about the notes from this standpoint, because I expect by the time we're wave 1, 2, or 3 PTU that these things will obviously be in. All right. Ship identity and role definitions. They've already kind of achieved this. Each salvage ship now has distinct identity and a specialized role. The Reclaimer is quantity over quality, the faster structural salvage processing designed for large-scale operations. They've already done this with RMC, with the Reclaimer versus the Vulture and Fortune. Funny enough, they don't mention the Fortune here. Vulture, the Lone Wolf, balanced middle ground ship, serves as a reference point for all of their ships. That's great, because I think the Vulture is the best salvage ship. It's my favorite. Until they hopefully do a Reclaimer rework at some point. Technical changes. So you can break things and disintegrate them from much farther away. They've increased by up to 60 meters from where they were before. Ship-specific fields each now generate different size fields, matching their visual design. In my experience, the Vulture was more narrow, while the Reclaimer was just like a big circle in front of you. Reposition sweet spots. This is where it's like, huh? There are sweet spots, but the UI does not communicate them to you that well at all. For example, in the Reclaimer, you know how you used to be able to see... Let's show you. If you can hear the game in the background, I wanted to have the game on so I could show you some things. So, the only UI difference that was made was if I was to go into... I'm trying to remember what the buttons were. I think it's Alt... It is not Alt-S, it is Alt-W. So if I was to go into fracturing mode and fracture this up, which I'm going to do, I have to be a lot closer to have it happen. I can do that from much further away now, like all the way back here. So that's the first change. By the way, we're on live. I'm not showing you EVO. I would never do anything like that. Just trying to kind of have a reference point for you guys. And RMC remains unchanged as far as we can tell. Okay, so it fractured, right? Boom. Bunch of pieces. Cool. If I switch to disintegration mode, you can see the little percentage numbers on the screen. For the Reclaimer, those are not there. They're still there on the Vulture. Right? Do you see how I get closer? All right, I'm getting 15%. That's the best I can do. Maybe if I move up and down, I can get it higher. 19% is the sweet spot, typically. I could get it up to 17. That's the best I can see here. But if I get closer, it all gets screwed up, right? All of that still exists, right? They just changed the alignment, I think, to be aligned on the claw for the Reclaimer, maybe, is the best I can tell. That was very difficult to tell because of the UI being kind of non-existent, right? Big talking, they just adjusted a few numbers. I just started. There's like this many notes, man. This is why EVO exists. And I love doing these talks to call out people like yourself. This is why EVO doesn't exist, because you just immediately start typing on your keyboard before anyone explains anything. Right? And you're still going, saying big talk from CIG. I'm only 10% into the talk from CIG. Chill out, man. Relax. Okay. Back to the notes. Do you see how long it took to break that? It didn't take very long. But as you go up into bigger ships, it definitely takes a lot more time. So they upped the speed differential. Massive performance gap between the fastest and slowest ships. The Reclaimer is super fast. The Vulture felt pretty darn slow. And yeah. Then conversion rate. SCU per cubic meter. Optimization varies by ship. Current is the Reclaimer. So I think just like the Reclaimer with RMC, you get a bit of a bonus on what you would normally get from the Reclaimer. But again, just the sweet spot thing, the UI has not changed outside of one small thing that we'll talk about in just a second. Field alignment sweet spot overhaul. Massive multiplayer buffs. Reclaimer will get a speed multiplier when you're properly aligned. Again, there's no UI to tell you that you're properly aligned in the Reclaimer currently. So we were talking in EVO chat. I'm like, how do you make these notes and put out the experience that it feels like none of the things are in, right? Obviously, it's an EVO patch, but like, you can't tell if you're aligned. There's nothing giving you any information there. So my expectation here, and when we were talking as a group playing EVO last night, I was like, how do you get to this point? And they were like, given how many times it failed, they probably had to roll back to an earlier build to have that failure not happen. I was like, oh, that makes sense. Visibility and mechanics. Sweet spots display positive and negative percentages on debris pieces. As you can see on live, those are already there. They have not changed. They are exactly the same. Easier with tractor beam ships. They all have tractor beams. I'm confused. But possible through flight positioning. I think this is to say, if you are a solo Reclaimer pilot, you can do this. But, yeah. Okay. So before we jump into the new 3-tier system and all of the problems that came with it, let's go back to the game and tell you the only UI change that was made was right above the depot where it says target yield. There is a green bar that is there that will go up or down based off of what percentage you're at. That's it. So, like, if I go to the bigger piece, this says 1.1 SCU, right? But if I get into the positives, which is very difficult to see, it never goes up. Oh, there you go. Nothing has changed then. That was already there. I thought that was new. I just never noticed it because I never do structural salvage. It's there, and it goes up and down based on where you're pointing. So, no UI change has been made in the PTU at the moment. I do expect one to happen, though. It just doesn't feel like we were playing the build that the notes were representing. Okay. Back to the notes. So, a new 3 material type system. Raw material types. All structural salvage now produces raw materials that require refinery processing. I imagine people are super excited the moment they see that. Like, finally, I wanted that extra step. Or I wonder, maybe people hate it. Maybe people liked salvage because it was like, I go, I salvage, and then I sell. Similar to people loving rock mining after the rock mining process was created. Yeah. Where's the PTU text on the bottom? I am on live. Yeah, I'm on live. You must have just got here. My bad. So, I like the idea of this. I hated implementing patch wiping on my refinery jobs for another career. You don't mind. So I already know you don't mind. So you are the reason that the NDAs exist. You even say true. You're the reason the NDAs exist. You're the reason that the special NDA groups exist, because you're the type of person who will post on social media and say that I hate things when you don't play them. So you're giving feedback and creating drama around a system that you don't participate in or care about at all. So you haven't seen this yet, but the refinery jobs go very fast. Like, they were not a big deal. So it's your choice, right? And that's it. Yeah, master modes is bad, hover mode's better. So yeah, I know, like, you're joking and I'm able to joke with you. People will probably defend you in the YouTube comments if I post this on YouTube, but yeah, there's no need. But like, you're literally the problem. I like the idea of refining materials because I love survival games. I love crafting in video games, and survival like crafting, which, by the way, Chris Roberts said that our crafting system would be similar to Valheim. You basically take, like, a tiered system is always really nice, right? Where you go from tier 1 and you use tier 1 material to make tier 2, and then you have tier 2 material that makes tier 3, and then you have tier 3 material that makes tier 4, so on and so forth. I've always liked those systems because nothing ever gets wasted, and then the player who begins in a video game 10 years into the game, tier 1 materials are still really useful, right? This is not that. They're using tier in a different way. But yeah, it now produces powder, scraps, and chunks, none of which are in the PTU. Right now, I only saw 2 different things. I saw what was it? Construction material rubble and construction material salvage. Those were the 2 things. I think if I scroll down... No, this was in an EVO feedback thread, so never mind. Where somebody had said something where they had found a 3rd material. Yeah. Those are the proper names for the powder. Yeah, we're assuming... Hey, Torsten, how are you? We're assuming that, like, those are placeholder names, but I didn't know which was which. But now I think I do know which was which, but I can only make powder from the reclaimer. It was weird. It was weird. Hold on. What's correct? So Torsten said in-game names are correct. So we saw construction material rubble. No, there is a 3rd category. Somebody mentioned it in a feedback thread in EVO chat. D-Rock, just go look for it. There was like 3 posts for feedback, the last that I looked. Construction material rubble and construction material salvage. Those were the 2 names that we saw. Those names are the correct names, and these aren't the correct names, or the patch note ones are the correct names, and they're going to get changed at a later date when people actually play, right? And thank you for being here, because, yeah, there's only so much that I can say. Rubble and salvage are correct, so the notes are incorrect. Thank you for that insight. Very, very, very much. Okay, so my expectation was coming and going, this is correct, and that is incorrect. Okay, so there's another material, but I don't know what the name is. But I don't want to risk bringing up an EVO thing on the channel, but there's another name for another one. We were confused, and it made testing very difficult for the notes being incorrect, because I didn't test the refinery processing time to be like, oh, this feels good or this feels bad, whatever. And I one second. Sorry, Emmy just came home and I just wanted her to close the door. Now that I look back, the construction material salvage, which is a weird name, I think, but the construction material salvage did refine really fast, and it felt like kind of satisfying. So there was that. And it's the same process that we have now. It's not the old process, which is where you can refine directly from a ship or from its magical inventory. You have to take the boxes out of the Reclaimer, Vulture, Fortune, and put them into your freight elevator and sell them or refine them from there. One thing I actually did not test was storing the ship, because you could store a mining ship and refine from that in the current experience, I believe, but I can't remember. Okay. Refinery integration. This is where I think they screwed up big time and kind of just missed a major thing, is all refinery decks can process these materials. Where are the refinery decks? The refinery decks are at the L stations. L stations have no extra large hangars, so if you are using a Reclaimer, the plan for the Reclaimer is to be fast, right? Quantity over quality, fast. Everything's fast on the Reclaimer, right? You now require a cargo ship if you want to stay in Stanton to do this. And just general the Reclaimer problems of getting the boxes out. It's way more tedious to get boxes out in EVA than it is to do it in a hangar, because you could drop them out, they eventually fall out, that kind of thing, and it's not too bad. So, hey, a cargo ship companion is cool. I agree, it should be a group thing. I don't think everything should be solo, so on and so forth. But I feel like they missed the mark a little bit here, so hopefully refinery stations get one extra large hangar at them. Maybe they can make that change, right? But that would be my main bit of feedback that was like, whoa, Reclaimer in Stanton just can't be used as easily, right? But yeah, the other weird thing is they all make construction material. So as I was reading through this, I was like, oh, this all makes sense. This is kind of cool. And then was like, no, we're going just back to where we were. Prices of construction materials in the PTU are currently the same, 2,200-ish. Workflow is raw materials to station inventory via a freight elevator, and then refinery processing. So, like, station inventory via freight elevator is the problem with the Reclaimer currently, but the Vulture felt amazing, and we'll tell you why in just a second. Time design, small ships get quick turnaround, large ships have an extended processing, but higher profits. Okay. If by extended processing we mean the royal pain in the ass with the reclaimer to try to get the boxes out of it, then fine. Strategic implications, operational models. Solo players use small ships for immediate gratification and quick profits. CIG has wanted solo players to do this for a long time. They don't. They fly Polarises and Idrises. Group operations and reclaimers, by the way. Use reclaimer for high volume operations with delayed but substantial payouts. What makes the payout delayed, I wonder? Because this is definitely the economy team kind of on this, I think. I wonder what this means. Because, I mean, just because it's big and slow and clunky, I guess? I'm not sure. Or just a bigger refining job because it's a bigger box. Yeah, my assumption is that. Mixed operations, on-site salvage production with dedicated transport ships for raw materials. Hell yeah, which is my favorite. I like to do that the most. But I would use vultures over reclaimers just because of the box problem. Economic balance. Incomplete for this EVO Cadi build, which is why apparently there's no feedback thread. Crew compensation, which is something to get very excited about. How do you do this? I don't know. Is there something in the works that we're not aware of that could potentially be very cool? Designed to support full crew payments? How do I pay my full crew? I am very excited to see whatever this means. And it says incomplete for this EVO Cadi build, so the expectation is it is in 4.3.2. So that's kind of exciting. And then session-based versus delayed. Small ship profits immediately available. Large ship profits require waiting periods. Again, it must be based off of refinery timers. Volume versus efficiency. Trade-off between processing speed and total yield. Yes. And then to calm my nerves down immediately when I got to this is the current system is not a placeholder, but foundation for post-crafting implementation. Good. Great. The issue that I have initially was like, why name it powder scraps chunks? Why not name it a mining material or something? But maybe they do have other crafting materials that are salvage materials or something like that. I don't know. Because the first thing that was like, why name it these other weird things and then turn it into construction materials when we can get three items that are unrefined that already exist in the game that maybe have different values than construction materials and then refine them. For example, copper, tungsten, or let's use copper, a low-grade material, a medium one, beryl, and terranite. Something like that, right? Every time you salvage a ship, you get a little bit of those three. Maybe the small ships, you get more of the low-value stuff, that kind of thing. That was what I had in my mind, because that looks way more like the foundation for post-crafting than let's make up three different materials and then turn it into another material that is probably not going to exist in the system. But maybe it will. Who knows? When crafting arrives, ships will produce the actual material they are built off of, which is very cool. Refinery processing times and quality retention mechanics will remain consistent. Quality system chunks will retain material quality better than powder, affecting refinery times. Oh, okay. So I don't know what chunks are or scraps. We know what powder is with the proper name, but this is kind of the material quality system in play there, which is kind of cool. And then the second best update, because the first best update is such a tiny one, but it is not in it's not in the notes. but the second best update is in the notes. Balance update for FPS tractor beams for snappier movement, faster rotations, longer brake times. Using a multi-tool is amazing. Again, it's like we had it this way before, and I think they wanted to sell the Atlas, so they made this differentiation. Using a tractor beam is so good. Like, cargo haulers rejoice. Like, it is not going to be as big of a pain in the ass. I think literally now the Atlas is like not worth potentially. That's how good this is. I can't wait for you guys to see it. Next, there were many new missions, some of which that included going down to a bunker. Remember, people found those like empty rooms inside of bunkers? They now are like medical locations with med gel things at them that you have to shoot. And when you shoot the med gel, it like slimes you. It's like green goo all over the place. It's I don't think it puts anything on your visor, but there's that. There's the fight for pyro missions are very weird. There's a 2 million credit mission that is very much like one that we've already had, which is the slicer boss in a Polaris. So, and it's 2 million credits. There's a CFP one, and then there's a Headhunters one. And they're both going after the slicer boss. The best update, which is such a tiny one, if somebody is in your party, their ship is now green. Yeah. So, like, there is a differentiation on the lock HUD for party members. Very cool. So, like, a regular person might be white or blue. An enemy or somebody who attacked you would be red. Yeah, the highlight around the ship is green. Yeah. So it's kind of like squad, like your squad. You can see who's in your squad. Ooh, D-Rack, what if they went aggro? Did they turn red? I can't remember. Or PC? They do not. Okay. So they stay green. Are you ready for this? PDCs no longer shoot at party members. Yeah, so you don't have to turn them off anymore. So those were the things that weren't in there. I don't even know if they were in the bug fixes or not, to be honest. But yeah, they fixed that, which is really sick. So things in the notes that are definitely worth them putting in the notes in the future are those. So yeah, PDCs don't work in the first place very well. They do work. They don't seem to be working gimbal-wise that great. Like, there's definitely some issues with PDCs, but we had PDCs firing at enemies or people not in party, and then immediately were not firing at people in the party. So, like, the party thing is real, but PDCs are still very broken. But yeah, so for me, the highlights were the tractor beam, the party members being green, PDCs not firing. All of this stuff, I think we need just an update. Like, the fact that Torsten had to come here and say that all of these notes, like these notes here, were incorrect is like kind of tough, because it made the test difficult, because I'm looking for powder and scraps and I'm getting other things and I didn't know what was what. But I guess if I really paid attention to the refinery, I could have figured it out. But yeah, that's huge. So that was the EVO patch. Nothing crazy. RMC is the same. Value of RMC is the same. Value of construction materials is the same. So personally, this is not something that is going to get me to go back and salvage. This is not something that is going to get me to salvage, period. None of these changes are enough to, excite me to come back to salvaging. I will obviously do it throughout the PTU cycle for testing or for feedback or for whatever. but I need this part for it to exist, right? When crafting arrives, then there's reasons to do it. Right now, I'm not enjoying the idea of just watching my my money counter go up without interacting with other players. So, yeah, UEX kind of burned that bridge for me pretty bad. Also, a critical bit, if an ally shoots you with a locked missile, the PDCs will shoot that missile, but only if it was locked onto you. Yeah, the whole, if you are not, if you dumbfire missiles, they won't do it, stuff like that. So, and it still won't shoot you after, which is pretty cool. So, without crafting, there's no reason apart from chilling. Yeah, if you love the mechanic, which I do, that's why I'm so excited. I can't wait for the crafting part. So, whenever that playtest happen or whatever it's called, tech preview, I'm going to be very excited. But that's EVO. So, not a whole lot to share on the salvage side yet. All of the changes feel relatively good. But, yeah, the biggest changes, I was just unable to tell what was going on because of the different naming convention. And, yeah, the fact that everything turns into construction materials makes it feel... Because the idea of construction materials always just kind of felt unfortunate. I think the point here is that the value of these is incredibly low. If you we went to sell them at the refinery, it was like 1 UEC, right? It was super low value. And in the this is to fix an exploit, essentially, of a reclaimer just creating hundreds, if not thousands, of construction materials, right? Out of thin air, just poof, creating them and instantly selling them. Now you have to actually do a process with that, while RMC is a much longer process because you're painting the ship. So I think that's the point of the whole change, is to add that extra step to kind of... Construction materials from a time standpoint was always actually better than RMC in a lot of cases, simply because you can basically create it instantly, right? Now you can't. Now you have to go through the refinery process. You got to take the boxes out of your ship. You got to put them on the freight elevator. You got to go to the refinery. You got to do the job. You got to wait for the job to end. You got to put the stuff back up your freight elevator. You got to put it on a cargo ship and then go sell it. So I also, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That solves a huge problem with the construction material loop. So very, very good. I hate the naming convention. I would have rather powdered scraps and chunks, to be honest. But, yeah, you do you, CIG. Will get used to it. Sometimes new stuff is hard to get used to. And, yeah. So, I will definitely be salvaging a bit throughout the PTU. But all of this stuff feels pretty good. The speed multipliers and the distances. But I think we need a little bit of a UI fix on those things. And, yeah, outside of that, all very cool stuff. So, let me know what you guys think about some of these things. And, yeah, that was my experience in EVO. Green party members, let's go.